When it comes to EVE Online, every player wants to know the most effective tactic available. You want to know the meta. The meta controls everything. It determines what will and will not happen. Knowing the meta will alter your views, make you question your reality. It might even make you laugh. And now, you're part of it. You're watching the Meta Show.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Meta Show. Keystone again here. Joining me, the co-host today are Remaker and Dave, and myself will be the tri-host head today. A little bit about my background real quick. Just want to add in, I did lose a 20 billion alligator last night. Friend of mine was like, made it for me and got some kill marks, got a fun fight out of it. It did die to like 8 Crusaders, though, unfortunately. We took a few down with us, but had a good time there. This week's topic, we're going to be talking about the recent updates that have come out with the new Revenant patch. We'll get into that in a minute. First, I would like to go over some housekeeping. So just so you know, Meta Show is doing a rotating host schedule for Season 6. Run of the show, we'll have a survey at the end. Let us know how we're doing. Our variety content is changing, so let us know if you like to see what you like to see on the channel. We're reviewing that content now, and we want to give you more of what you, the viewer, like to see. And then, of course, the INN team here, we're recruiting stream producers, Eve streamers, and variety streamers, so please reach out to us and let us know if that's something you would be interested in. All right, let's take it on to our top story of the day. All right, so getting on to our first topic today, what I'd like to talk about is kind of something coming from a small gang, medium gang kind of attitude, that kind of thing. I personally hated Ansiblix jump bridges. I felt like they were very allowed the blocks to get everywhere, and there wasn't a lot of counterplay for us when we go roaming into somebody else's space on how we handled that. And I know the new update kind of addressed that fourth projection. So I'm gonna kind of hit it off to my my co-host today, Dave and Remaker here. Like, what are your feelings on the new Ansiblix changes? Starting with like their positioning on field and being tackled, not being able to use them. How do we feel about that?
I personally love it. It's incorporated what was good about the old jump bridges. For those that are sweet summer children never experienced pause jump bridges, basically they acted like a Titan bridge. You couldn't take it when tackled, when bubbled. Couldn't be on a gate, had to be on a pause. I will say Ansiplexes don't have to be on a pause. Had no damage cap, and were just generally made you a little bit more vulnerable, unlike what Ansiplex has turned into be, which was the get out of jail free card, whatever in the system you pleased, which from a defensive standpoint is amazing, but is also incredibly irritating. So I think it just adds a bit more thought to the gameplay when moving about Eve, and a lot of people that are a bit careberry and think that because they're in a big null block, nullsec is safe, are going to get a bit of a rude awakening with this.
Yeah, Dave, you have some data on like compared to how many times Ansiblexes were shot compared like before the patch and what we were looking at before. So on your screen, and this is Imperium data, right?
Yeah, so this data is gathered from how many Ansiplexes, blue or hostile, have been entered into the Imperium's Tiny board in the last 9 days, and then the 9 days before the patch. So the patch was roughly 9 days ago, so I just did the patch up until today, and then I did 9 days before the patch. Let me get the raw numbers up on my screen. So, prior to the patch, 16 Ansiplexes were refed, be them blue or red, according to our timer board. See, this is what we know about. This isn't a definitive, this is how many were refed, because I've only gone off the data I have at hand. And then after the patch, a massive 61 answerplexes have been refed. Now, this isn't saying whether they've been destroyed. I think we actually had a look, and it's 9 destroyed since the patch as of yesterday, and something like 5 were destroyed the same time, like amount of time before the patch. But this just shows how much the no damage cap is really affecting the answerplexes, really, and them getting refed.
I think
Yeah.
it's I think the jump bridges overall are very powerful, and I think that now I know that's kind of irritating for this for the huge blocks, right, defending these, but I do think it provides some more content. I think it's a healthy, and I do think, as mentioned, um, we can see the ansiblixes that are powerful and they should be more vulnerable. I had one example. Me and a buddy of mine, just the one day prior to the patch, we were in the nullsec gate, camping the stragglers from the pandemic fleet, and as they were jumping through, and then one praxis suddenly came out, right, and we got it tackled, and we were only like with 2 characters, and we were he had an active shield and wrapping strong, but we almost got it. He lost his shield, but eventually he figured out, oh, let me de-aggress and let me reapproach Dan Sublex. He got away on 10 or 20 percentage hole, and we were so annoyed by that. And I think now that's definitely a better for everyone, especially for the
Yeah.
small groups.
Yeah, I can definitely say from like a small group standpoint in my past where we would come into somebody's space, we'd be sitting on Ansiblex and it pops up and it's like several times you'd be in a fleet and like, man, I wish if we pointed this person, they wouldn't be able to jump the gate. Like it's so annoying that they can jump through these gates and just play these silly games with us on these gates and just hurt us. So I can definitely speak from a small gang standpoint. Like it's a wanted change, it's a needed change there. But are we seeing like any kind of impact? And Dave, this is kind of more for you because being the big FC here in Goons and that kind of thing at a bit higher level, like on how we approach like our fleets and how we're taking out, like is it slowing fleets down or anything else like that?
So I've been quite busy and not been around as much since the patch because of IRL stuff, as you know. But from what I've seen in our channels, it is meaning we're having to respond to stuff that we wouldn't have necessarily responded to before. Um, Such as, for example, one dude and his ults shooting an answerplex would rather stop him reffing it than just be like, we'll chase him off in a minute. Yeah, because if it gets into that ref, then we have to send out a fleet to actually repair it. And I don't know. I don't think we've mentioned that yet, but that is another thing they've done. You have to manually repair
Yeah.
answerplexes now. Which for me is a big thing because you always have to take a fleet to go and rep that answerplex, no matter what.
Well, that brings up like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that brings up too, Dave. Like you say, you have to take a fleet out to rep them, and we have to run them off. But their positioning, like we have this current ANSIs are grandfathered in on their position, and if we lose one of those ANSIs, like in UALX or wherever it may be, we then have to place it. What was it like? I think it was 100,000 kilometers away, that kind of thing, and it's a lot further away. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
has to be placed. It is 100,000 kilometers off the gate, so there's no more on-grid answerplexes once these ones are destroyed. So essentially, if you want to keep your answerplex on your gate grid, on your keepstar grid, what have you, you need to keep it alive. It's kind of like when stations got changed into Fortizars, and you could miraculously have a Fortizar 100 kilometers off of a iHub. Yeah, you want to keep that alive because you ain't going to place another one. So really, for your key infrastructure, not iHubs, words, jump bridges, you want to keep them alive, to keep them in their position.
yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, the chat, I believe, believes this is pretty good change. I think I saw Ellie in chat say, "Hey, this is a good change," and a lot of folks were saying, "Hey, we got to run off fleets, and we're catching more of their ships and that kind of thing." Is there anybody like? Is there any thoughts on? Is this a bad change? Is this something like we think in any way, shape, or form that CCP dropped the ball here a little bit, or maybe there's something they could do different?
For
I
the
think we
end,
could see the miners complaining.
yeah.
We're seeing
There
a
you
ton
go.
of miners dying.
There's
Yeah.
there's gonna hopefully be a special surprise on a show about that. But as for the antiplexes, I think the changes are good just across the board. The fact that they
Yeah.
raised the HP on them as well, so they didn't just instant, because if they had the same HP as before, you could breathe on the thing and it would be ref. The thing that stopped them getting ref so
And
quick was the damage
and then Dave, don't forget about the spawn, right? So the spawn, the radius is much smaller
Mm-hmm.
now,
You
so
need
it's easier to
to,
tackle. And
and you need to be closer to jump as well, so it's
yeah,
harder to
yeah,
burn back to gate.
exactly.
But at the same time,
Yep.
if a geezer's got a bubble, you ain't gonna get through, which I think helps small gang gameplay as well, because they just need to set up a bubble and away you go. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think
definitely.
some of the chat has said like it encourages good behavior to learn how to like move around your space, which I think is always a good thing. I feel like I'm sorry for you miners out there or multi-boxers moving 15 ships now, and you get bubbled on the ANSI, you're kind of in a bad spot. But it is overall a good change, and I think it really does help with encourage more like different types of gameplay as well in nullsec. And I think it opens up too for some of your, and correct me if I'm wrong in this, maybe your skirmish commanders, that kind of thing, giving them something to go out and like create content in somebody else's space as well. Just as much as us going and defending our infrastructure, but going out and making our enemies miserable as well. Because I'm pretty sure we've been setting plenty of our own timers as well,
Oh
right?
yeah. Well, we looked at the kills yesterday, and there's 3 Horde jump bridges on there. From what I know, Horde didn't respond to the first one and it died. They responded halfway through the second one, didn't get there in time, and then turned up with a force that wasn't big enough to push the fleet off in the first place and lost the third. So it gives a lot more stuff for FCs to do, needs FCs to be a lot more on the ball and watching their timer boards if they get refed. But at the same time, chasing off low effort refing. Because if someone's reffing it with something that's not going to do it very quick, get rid of the dude. Admittedly, there's going to be instances where, 16 polarized widows will turn up and just insta-blap that jump bridge. Keith knows what I mean.
Was that
But
was that a dig at somebody? I feel like that was a dig at one of our FCs out there who
bit.
does polarized widows.
But it causes you to have a lot more thought rather than we'll get it on the repair timer, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which I think is
Yeah, no,
what this
100%.
game needs, because there's a lot of we'll do it on the repair timer. Even with Citadels, it's like you'd say you ref a fort, it's like, oh, we'll deal with it on the armor timer. Okay, well, we still got one more timer to deal with this problem, shunting the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. Anything that gets more ships in space, Kane mentioned in chat as well, like I'm all for, in kind of like my game style, that kind of thing, which I feel like transitions us pretty well as far as ships in space. And we talked about this change, I think being a good change for more of our small game. I think it's overall a good change, right? I think we can all can agree that the ANSI changes in the most recent and the Revenant update here, definitely a positive for everything. But one of them I feel like it's a little bit that I like spend some time talking about it in our next topic here is like a little more, I can save some of the discords that I'm in with our small gang partners out there and stuff. Not as excited about, but our filament changes. And Dave, I think we have the chart on the spool up
We
times
do.
for the filament. Awesome. Let's go ahead and take a look at that.
There we are. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. One sec. That's what she said. There
Awesome.
we go.
Please pause for technical there. Yeah, so we have our filament changes there on the shared on the screen. So if you're not familiar, filaments used to be kind of like an active, like you'd get in a fleet with your buddies and like, hey, I'm gonna go roam somewhere, I'm gonna press the filament. Really common, like I know I used to use them and when I was in rote and that kind of thing. We go in Rome and we get camped into space, like, hey, we're going out to your space, we're gonna hit your NC. We gotta fight. All right, we're done now. it would use filaments as a get out of jail free card, whether that's back to Potsdam and that kind of thing. Well, now CCP's like, hey, you know what? We're gonna nerf that gameplay, and we're gonna say, nah, not anymore. Now there's the spool up time on how long it takes, and we can scan them down, right?
Yeah, they pop up just like a abyssal filament, when you're running your abyssals, and depending on what filament it is, it will be there for X amount of time, and will have you sitting there for X amount of time. So as you can see on the screen, for those that are hard of sight or Twitch be bad, the standard one character filaments, which today I learned exist because I've never seen them before, um, take 15 seconds. So that's kind of like woohoo, and out you go. Then it progressively gets more for each one. It actually doubles for the next one. So the 5 character one is 30 seconds, 15 is 60, 25 is 90. And then for the Potron ones, it's even longer. So the longest time you're going to be sitting there waiting is the Potron extraction filament, which is going to have you there for 180 seconds. Just sitting in space, twiddling your thumbs.
Just waiting to get scanned and losing it down. I mean, Remaker, have you done anything? How do you feel with the filament changes here?
I don't know, like, I don't do often, like once a week or so, just for fun, right? But I never like that teleporting. For me, that's like removing the content. Less PvP for me because and it's annoying. Like for example, I do a lot of crabbing, right? And then a filament, group comes in. And they steal really fast in 5 minutes my ESS, and then suddenly they disappear. They're in the system, and I cannot find them. I cannot do anything about it. And in a matter of seconds they're gone, and I feel really terrible about that. Now at least I have a chance to defend that, and to to catch them, and try at least to kill them, right? So I think definitely it's a good change in my opinion. um I'm not sure about those guys that are using this often, right? For PvP content, but for me at least personally, I think it's a great change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree, but I would have gone a different route rather than making you sit there in space for the filament to take you. I would have made it longer between filament hops. So 15 minutes, you go in, you rob an ESS. By that time, you're already, ready, almost ready to go. By the time you're all done with getting to the ESS and stuff. If they had have made it so filaments kind of polarize like a wormhole does, and it's like a 30 minutes you're stuck in this area of space, go that's for the needle jack. Now for the Potron ones, I 100% agree that should be a spool up, because people literally will just use those to run out of somewhere and get home. There's several Horde FCs, one of which I apparently live rent free in his mind, who used to have all of their fleet carry these things. Just so if they got pinned down, they could be a max coward and just get their fleet to Potron and then back out. Or, in other terms, he would get himself out and leave his fleet behind, which I've seen him do as well. So having some
Dave,
sort
you're
of
not going to call out this FC?
No, he knows who he is. Yeah, so having some way to catch them on those ones, which are the most used ones to get home, I would say is somebody guessed it in chat, is a better thing. But the ones that actually people use to get themselves to content, maybe not have a timer on getting yourself to the content.
Yeah. I can go both ways on this. I can see the positive, especially coming from like that nullsec mindset where you were probably the biggest victims of this, right? Like where small gangs or groups would come in, they would gank your ratter and then they would leave with zero counterplay for you. I can also see this from my side of the house when you're roaming and the nullsec guys bring 40 dudes, 30 recons to fight my 2 Orthruses or whatever it may be. And I'm like, wow, this is really obnoxious that I have to deal with all this, and I just, took out an Ishtar. And now I don't even want to come to your space anymore to do that because I have no real way out, and now you can camp me in. Now you can scan down my filament. Why would I go roam to nullsec anymore, or to a block space where I know they're going to react with, something obnoxious, and they're going to blob me in my small ship or my solo ship, whatever it may be, and I don't have it. So I think there's a balance, and you mentioned it, Dave, like some kind of maybe a jump fatigue timer, kind of in a sense,
Yeah.
increasing the timer, forcing you to have to stay in that space longer. And I don't think the having you sit in space that allow you to be scanned down, I don't think that was the answer. I think it should have been a longer amount of time that you have to be committed to that space. I think would have provided some counterplay for our small gang peeps, or excuse me, our null peeps, guys out there ratting and stuff trying to protect their stuff. It gives you time to go hunt them down. It achieves kind of the same thing, but also still allows kind of that gameplay. You're just going to have to be a little more committed in that space and be a little smarter with how you game things. So,
I think maybe a mix
But
of both, to be honest. Um,
yeah.
allowing people to catch them when they're trying to get out, but also making them stay in that space for longer. Yeah. So
I think also that you kind of you're not, even if you are scannable, it's like you don't need to be there, or you're not scrammed to that, to that bridge, which means if it doesn't work out, you can, counter scan. If you see someone's coming, move away, go to another system, and activate it again.
actually, you burn the
So
filament. So if you leave the radius of that filament, you will not be. That filament will go without you. It's like missing the bus. So say we were all out on a roam, you burn out of the radius of the filament.
yeah.
Keith and I would be off on our merry way, and you'd be stuck.
No. What I'm saying is that, let's say, for example, right? I steal something. I steal, psychic loot, right? I have the luge with me. I have a few, smaller ships, and I'm waiting there. And then I see on D-scan, oh my God, someone is approaching. Let's all together move out. Let's warp out, go to another system, right? Let's find another system that doesn't have many players. Let's activate it again. So all you need is more filament, so to say. Um, so I don't think, like, just because of it's scannable now, that people won't use it. I do think that it's still, I don't know. I do think it's a little bit balanced. It's not completely like disastrous for the small gangs. Um, but again, I'm not the one, who's using it on daily basis. So
Yeah. I can
somewhat
say
advocate there.
someone in the chat said you wouldn't let someone come take a dump in your IRL garden and then let them run off. You'd hold them down, tackle them until the police show up. And I mean, I would argue and say, like, if something like that were to happen, we're going to use nullsec as your IRL garden. Like, if somebody comes into my IRL garden, takes a dump, I should be more active in my garden so I can go out and counter
Yeah.
them. And I think that's where my thought is if you put a longer timer before you can use it again, because you're going to filament into the space, right? Very rarely the system you filament into is where you're catching someone. You've got to roam to a couple few jumps over, that kind of thing, to find the content or find the person. So if you force the group to stay there longer, that gives you more time to tackle them and hold them down for the police, right? Because they just took a dump in your garden. I love the analogy, by the way. I think that's a
It
great
is a great
analogy, and I think,
analogy.
like, I'm gonna go take dumps in people's gardens now.
One of the things I do think though is there needs to be a way. Like I think filaments should be enhanced to find a way to get the Care Bears to come out of their shell as well. Like put more
Yeah.
hostiles in their space. Because some I've noticed over the last few weeks is a lot of nullsec players have suddenly become the sort of players with silver spoons in their mouth, forgetting they live in nullsec and expecting 100% security from their alliance or their corporation. Um, flipping out because there's newts in the area, and it's like, this is nullsec. There will be newts. You're gonna live with it. Go kill them. Um, so I think more newts in the areas will be good as well. So if CCP could find a way to balance it out to make it so you can kill them easier, but also get more people using them, it'd be great.
Something we used to use. We're talking about dumps and gardens, and somebody mentioned fertilizer. When I was in when I was in Rote Capel, we called it sustainable farming. So we didn't like to go in and like completely dump on everybody's stuff. We wanted to farm sustainably in that regard.
Remaker just dropped and burned.
So looks like we lost Remaker.
And the cameras have gone wrong.
Welcome back, Remaker. I'm glad you could come back there.
I was just like, my
whole
cameras.
Dark.
Yeah. No, I think CCP sees the filaments as potentially maybe there wasn't a lot of counterplay there initially when they released them, and they left it like that, and they had a lot of data to show that maybe we need to put some counterplay. I don't know if I know for a fact I don't like the solution that they came out with the stupid filaments. I do think they can come back and look at it, and there's some opportunity for different ideas to make it a little bit still like, because I think in its current state, if I was taking a nano roam out and stuff like I used to, I don't know how well it's like I gotta sit here now, and it's gonna give, if they're already hunting me in that space, it's gonna give them plenty of time to scan me down, like 180 seconds, whatever it may be, the timer I have. That's enough time to catch me and get a saber on me. So
personally,
all
one
right,
of the
Remaker.
Remaker's gone. He's gone again. Okay. One of the things
Remaker's just gonna come and go from the show.
Yeah, you're gonna see me and Keith.
No, it's fine. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can hear you, man.
Yeah, sorry guys, my neighborhood went just dark for a few seconds. We had a construction workers down the street working entire day, so I'm sure that they did got something out that they shouldn't.
Have you told them to stop turning it off and on again? Because at the moment it's me and Keith are foreheads.
We are the forehead gang. This is not the Meta Show. This is the Forehead Show now. Welcome. Thanks for the title change of the Meta Show. We're rebranding to Forehead.
Okay.
Let me try to enable that.
Okay. That's. I've got.
There we go. Looks like we're back to normal.
We're just
something strange going on my PC.
I'm turning on show non-video participants. So every time you turn to
this is all planned. Yeah. Chat, by the way, this is all planned right now. We just wanted to spice it up a little bit, give you a good shot of our. We are.
So.
Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, I've lost my train of thought. Oh, one thing.
It's okay.
On the note of traveling around Eve, one thing I think this game does need is more wormholes. Just more direct wormholes. Get fleets.
Go live in Turner.
Yeah, I know, but you know what I mean. Get more fleets able to travel across Eve more, and you'll see more fights and more fun. It's all well and good having drifter holes all over the joint, but you can only take certain things through there. I remember a day when enemies lived a lot closer to each other because there were a lot more groups in Null, and you would regularly see, a random Ferox roam running into each other. And it does need more people than Turner because little MWD needs their ass kicked some more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're gonna sit on Rote's couch, Goons and Rote, right? That was the old thing. Rote was in the Imperium, right? Kamal was the old. Not true. Please don't take that anywhere and be like, I heard it here on the Meta Show that Rote is part of the Imperium. Yeah,
let's make that a meme.
Not really a thing. It was for a little bit. All right, cool. So one of the other things I want to take some time and talk about a little bit as well, some of the broader like balance changes that we saw with this recent patch. And one of the ones that I know is a little polarizing too, is as a small game guy compared to kind of the bigger block side of it, was Hicks fitting sinos. I know that's exciting for some of my guys over in chat there in the Imperium here. Like we're excited. I know Ellie's excited with the lighting the sinos with Hicks and that kind of thing, but do we think this is a good change? Do we think it's a positive change in the game? Hicks putting sinos?
I think it is. Back before the changes to sinos, only putting them on Black Ops and Recons, the Hictor was the main I'm bringing in my capital fleet here thing. Because capital fleets normally have, if you're in a super cap fight, you have Hick bubbles up anyway. Because you want your fleet bubbled, so if anything happens and somebody accidentally warps off, or somebody DCs and they don't have E-warp turned off, they're not going anywhere. On the flip side, it's harder for people to warp into you look at Test when they warped, 100 dreadnoughts into our Titan fleet in M2, and Kumi just went high with his 7 Titans and destroyed them all. So they are important. Back in the day, your super capital Sinos would be a Hictor and then a super. So going back to having Hictors do it is amazing because they can't be blapped easily, which even a Black Ops can, because if you're sinoing into a super fight, a Titan's going to blow that thing up. They've got the right amount of tank for their size to prevent that sort of thing, and Falcons can just get killed easily anyway. Well, I say Falcons, Recons. I say Falcons because that's what I use. So it brings another aspect, and then it brings another aspect to the hunting thing of you don't need to have a Dictor and a Sino or a Hictor and a Sino traveling around to catch something. You just have the one ship and off you pip. Don't know how you guys feel about it, but I love it.
Remaker, do you
think
have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that it's not much of a change in my opinion. I don't think that we will see suddenly less recon ships because, you still don't have the cloaking device, which is mandatory for most of home defense fleets and so on. So I think for hunting, yes, you will see more utilization of these Hicks, but I do think that they're heavy and I would still, if I would go hunting, I would still take a recon instead of the Hick, because it's easier to move through the enemy system, right? In a recon ship.
It just depends what you're hunting, in my opinion. But I think where we'll see a lot more of them is offensive or big like fights that are around a timer is where you'll see a lot of them. Because even right down to a battleship fleet, you could sino in your battleship fleet in position with a Hictor bubble already up, and be ready to fuck immediately.
I hate the idea of putting Sinos on more things, but that's just coming from the trauma that I used to face back in the day where you tackle a Gila ratting and then it would have a Sino on it and
Or
they'd bring in their facts and like you gotta think so. Like I personally I see it from I think it's a good change from like a block standpoint of adding a harder Sino option without having to put like a Marshall on field or something like a 20 billionist Black Ops battleship to bring in the rest of your fleet and a bigger engagement. So, and it does prevent that. But I think from like my experience in small gang stuff, a Hick, you've got that long scram on it, and then all of a sudden your Orthrus is caught, and then that defense fleet, they're going to Sino in, bridge in their fleet, or they're going to drop, Hall dreads
yeah,
on you,
but
and you're like, wow, this is dumb.
would you? I mean,
Yeah, I
I
think Avoxing.
personally wouldn't leave a Hick stuck in space for 10 minutes to catch an Orpheus, but you make it.
I think Avoxing business gonna get boomed there. So like someone mentioned in the chat, and I think it's Batista. You're right. So like it's gonna be way easier now for the blue eyes to just go there, bubble and then open a sign at the same time, for the fleet. So I think it's gonna be definitely utilized more in that way, where we will see the blue, Hicks opening a sign off.
Mhm. But then again, if you've
There's
got
a
a Hictor ult in hostile alliances, that's the sort of ult that you're going to be kind of like, is it worth it? Yeah, if it's a Titan, then sure as fuck it. But if it's just like a super running a crab beacon, you'd just kind of be like, oh, I could save this Hictor ult for the next, big fight. Be sat in the middle of a hostile super fleet. Suddenly, bubble goes up, Sino goes up. Very hard to fucking kill me because they can't see me.
I do think that it's worth to sacrifice, especially in some of the alliances. I'm not gonna name them, but they do accept the players without any kind of interviews or or,
Oh, you
or
can name it
background
Pandemic
checks.
Horde. Um,
Right.
It's, I mean, if you lose one, you can just get another one tomorrow after downtime.
yeah, I mean,
So
for example, I made a character on stream, got the stream to pick the name of it. I had Horde members, including the Horde director, watching the stream. I then later on in the stream applied that a character to Horde, and they accepted it. and it was
I
there
was
for
there,
3
Dave. I
months.
was there.
Yeah, it was there for 3
I was
months
Some
there.
of the
until I got
best,
fed up and started pinging their Discord. Like,
some of the some of the best buys though are the ones that you know where they're at, so you can kind of feed them whatever the heck you want. But one of the talking about Hicks with Sinos, and I can't remember if this Hick had a Sino on it, but one of the first times I ever interacted with Zinage, by the way, was when I was in Rote Capel and a blue Hictor tackled a Titan on one of our forts, and Zinage was brought in supers to help defend the Titan that died, but it got we did kill like 30 dreads though before it went down. So yeah, no, again, like Hick Sinos I think are great for kind of the null tech thing. We're bringing CCP is bringing some of the, they say, hey, no sinos on anything, and now we're kind of making some exceptions with the input with null. I still, like, again, I have trauma from back in the day where everything had a sino on it, and anything you tackled in like a Plex. Remember when the blackout happened? I'm pretty sure Blocks told everybody to just put sinos on their ratting ships, and every ratting ship had a freaking sino on it. It was obnoxious.
I miss the days of being terrified that that Corvette sitting next to your Titan could be a Sino.
Hey,
Because
100%, you
Velators
could
could
do
fit
it.
a Sino. Like, they had enough cargo room to hold one cycle. And I just used to love that, the caution of everything could be a Sino. Now everybody's so confident, it's like, oh, that's not a Sino because it's not. But back in those days, it was, holy shit, is that Corvette a Sino? Is that Venture going to kill me?
Yeah.
You know, suddenly dreadnoughts. So I'd
There's
love to see a bit more of that back in the game.
maybe a little bit, maybe not too much. I don't know. I don't know if I can go back to all the way to Sino Ibis, as someone said in chat there. But
Yeah.
one of the other changes I want to talk a little bit about, just because this one, when I was in Potsdam, we used to see multi-boxers with EOSs and sentries, and it was kind of obnoxious because
It's
we would
really
go into these
oppressive.
plexes and go to make a, yeah, 100%. They could sit out and just orbit at, like, they were like almost impossible to catch. Their sentry drones would alpha like smaller tackle that could go catch them. It was a little dumb. And they would just leave if your actual main fleet got to them. And with the recent change, we've seen a sentry drone nerf to the EOS, that kind of thing. And I think this will hopefully, in my opinion, hopefully kind of force our multi-boxers and like Potchman and stuff like that have to invest in maybe a little more expensive of a doctrine and kind of nerf that gameplay. And just like to hear you guys' thoughts. And chat, feel free to chime in. If you've had any bad experiences with EOSs and sentry drones, let me know. Let us know. Tell us your story.
I mean, I don't know much about Potron on it, but in Nullsec, I remember when we were fighting Fire Coalition in Faith of Bolis, there was one dude that would sit on the same gate with like 20 EOSs and effects, just one dude. And we couldn't take a single fleet through that gate while he was there. It could be a 256-man fleet. The amount of bubbles he had on that gate, you weren't getting off that gate before his sentry drones annihilated you. They were that powerful. It was nuts.
There's there is a one corporation. I don't recall their name, but they're even today they're doing that on the gate where the first gate when you enter from the catch to the Providence, I believe so. There is a system there, and a group of people they put like up to even 20 EOSs, and they mix it with like 5 Dominixes. So in Dominixes are using basically the light drones, and then the EOS is using sentries, and they position it in a bubble from all the sides. So no matter from where you're coming, there will be plenty of sentry drones with perfect tracking, one-shotting you directly. And they even what is even worse is they put a remote sensor boosters on these, and they boost, that they boost even like a Huygens, they boost scepters, so they have all insta lock, and there is no way to escape. Yeah. I do personally with my corp, but I don't do EOS. It's too expensive for me. I use Myrmidons, but yeah, very similar tactic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kamul, I was reading your comment about the Potron, and maybe I feel like what you're trying to say is that maybe EOSs aren't being used as much in Potron because it's harder for them to just sit at range and that kind of thing. So that's fine. But I wonder maybe if this drone, the EOS sentry drone nerf is a little, I don't know if it's in response to Potron, but it sounds like it's kind of a response to EOS's of kind of reign when it came to sentry drone for a little bit. We're trying to bring him back in line with the rest of the drone boats there. Yeah, the Ishtar runners. Yeah, okay, yeah. So that's cool there. I just remember, man, I the freaking EOS guy, we called him all the time when it came to that piece. So we talked about, we talking about plexes and Potchman here a little bit. There was a change here in the most recent, patch where we're seeing CCP kind of attacking the seagulling in lowsec. And from what I understand, like we've decreased, and Remaker, correct me if I'm wrong here, we've decreased the number of people that will get rewards from like our small and medium and large plexes and back war. Is that correct?
Yeah, so exactly. So, for example, for the scouts and smalls, you had before you had two options, either one or five. So either you're gonna go with the one, let's say Algos, right? As a one single character, and then you would have to wait 10 minutes and you would get your rewards. Or if you have multi characters or your buddies, you can even still use the small frigates, but it would pay out until 5 players. Now they have changed all that, not just for small, for mediums as well. And where you can see mediums, there is no longer 1 to 5, either 1 or 5. Now it's fixed, up to 2, or for mediums up to 3. I think I think they wanted to see more players doing multiple sites across multiple systems, more activity, right? And but I don't necessarily think that this is a good change. I do think that we'll see lesser rewards, and I think the biggest problem right now with faction warfare or insurgencies is the killing the same militia. Um, so I do think that CCP should change something, because I personally think that a lot of players are leaving the faction warfare or pirate insurgencies because they're getting killed constantly from their own same militia without big consequences. And I do think that um, you should get, for example, if you kill on your own member, right? You should get deducted for -1 point on, towards the standings, so that basically if you kill it 2 or 3 times, you get out of the militia. That's it, right? If you want to fight, if you want to PvP, go to join opposite a militia, right? You have plenty of fire there. And I think it needs to change. Like, I had a one member just joined Kate today, and he tried to do it on his own, and he died twice in half an hour from his own people and from own militia. And he was running small site with Algas, right? And he died twice in a half an hour. And he said, "No, I'm gonna let this go, right? I'm gonna go home to nullsec. I'm not gonna do this." And I think that's very
Yeah.
bad, and CCP should change that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, I think there's a people who enjoy that games to play though. Like you look at high set ganking, and I know there's a lot of is to be made in high set ganking too, but there is like some of these guys do it just because they enjoy the frustration. Like that's a win for them. Like this guy's not going to be in the militia anymore. He's going back to nullsec. I win. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm ganking them. But I think you bring up a good point too. It's kind of wild to think about it. Like if I go and gank blues, quote unquote, that are in the same militia as me while I'm there, what is my penalty? I know, like in my past experience with it, it's been a while since I've been like in low sec pack war, but people would get that called out, and you would know, you would learn who those kind of people are. But why isn't there a system in the game for, and Puke, if you're listening, buddy, my low sec guy there, to us, like, hey, let's get something like this going. Um, where it does, like, hey, if you get X, Y, and Z number of like blues that you shoot of the same faction, like you get kicked out. Like it should be an automated thing, because when you join a militia, it's not like you're joining a player run militia. It's supposed to be an NPC militia. I'm Kalari, I'm whatever. So why are we not having, like, why isn't like just an auto kick where the militia police like do some RP with it, they show up and
Exactly.
kick you out?
There's a plenty of options. Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Well, we'll see. I will definitely write an article on the Reddit and see. I'm gonna tag the
Yeah.
CCP, please.
That's right. Get it on Reddit and go and be like, hey, let's take it out.
Yeah.
Exactly, Kimball. Their faction war AWACSers are usually in the good standing towards the militia. So even individual standings drop, they don't get kicked out of the corp because it's still high enough. So there you go. I mean, exactly. I think there's a better play to that, and more specifically to kind of the changes to the Plex's rewarding. Like we talk about some of the challenges they face in low sec when it comes to FAC war, and then you're also taking away like I can't have as many alts. Well, I think me and you used to run FAC war when we first moved to Turner a little bit, and that was kind of something we did. We had our own little course and we were trying to get ISK that way. It reduces the amount of ISK that we ran in FAC war. Like we can get in FAC war, and sure it does target some seagulling, but I personally think it's a little bit of a lazy change. Like, oh, okay, let's just reduce the payout. Like you're not really solving the root cause of the problem there in low sec. So awesome. And I think somebody mentioned earlier, and I'm sorry that I scrolled over this, but somebody mentioned in the chat, I want to circle back to this earlier in our earlier topic when we were talking about ANSIs. They felt like Ansiblexes, the changes with Ansiblexes with bubbles are kind of like a new player tax. And the comment was, hey, older players can just jump around in their capitals, whereas newer players have to deal with bubbles on Ansiblexes. And I think for Dave and then Remaker, are we seeing like a lot of our Ansiblexes get bubbled? And then the other point to that is like, how would somebody go about? I feel like moving a capital, unless you have sign-ups for yourself to different structures, is not exactly maybe that easy.
Yeah,
So we want to talk to that a little bit.
So on the bubbling Ansiblexes, I've heard tell whilst I've been off the last week or so that people have been doing it. My answer to people that complain and sit there and not do anything about it is, if you're going to complain about an Ansiplex being bubbled, get you and your friends and do something about it. That's welcome to nullsec.
You heard it here.
Like, you don't need an FC, for instance, to unbubble an Ansiplex. If there's 10 guys bubbling an Ansiplex, get 11 guys and go kill them. Or, drop your Horde Dread on them. But
wait a second, hold on. Are we allowed to just drop our Hall Dreads and everything now? I get yelled at for dropping my Hall Dread during a strat up.
Asher said a while ago, not during a strat up, no, but Asher said a while ago, use your dreads.
I did it 2 days ago in ULX. There were like gang of 20, 30 bellicos.
Okay, no, that's dumb.
I dropped.
But yeah,
I dropped.
That's dumb.
I dropped the Morris Navy and got, I think, 11 of them, and then they just escaped. Everyone else just escaped. Yeah.
Top tip, folks: don't use capitals in your staging system. There's a nice video by Pod Amazingness
no one
that
heard
will show
about
you
that.
why. But
no one heard about that.
The other comment about more experienced veteran players using their capitals to get about. That is just so much work just to get to another system that I'd rather hop in a shuttle and go. Because, like, for instance, if I use actually, a good example is I was bridging stuff for my Titan the other day. It's now in UALX. That's not where I keep my Titan. It's really annoying because it's 2 mids away from where I actually keep my Titan. So it's not always convenient to be jumping your capitals about, because sometimes you want them in a particular place to do it. Now, more experienced players may have a jump freighter or a black ops that they may hop about in. But at the same time, you've still got to move a Sino there. So if you're going to gate a Sino there, why don't you just get in a shuttle and gate there yourself? And just leave the stuff, leave stuff where you want the stuff. Like my Stormbringers stay in the system I rat in, or in that general area, unless you freak out like I did earlier and think I've lost one when I haven't. That was funny. Like my high angle dread stays in the area where I kill people. That sort of thing. You just, especially if you're in goons now, with all the space we have, you leave the stuff in the area you do the thing in. There's no need to take it anywhere else. So if you're doing crab beacons, leave your crab beacon ship down in Beehive, for instance. And then you just shuttle about. That's what more experienced players do. They hardly, I for one, hardly ever hop about in my capital ships. Builds up aids, wastes your jump fuel, then you end up with a capital ship in a place you don't want it, and then you're suddenly like, oh, I have no fuel because I've been jumping it about everywhere. So it affects
awareness. I think it will raise awareness and
Mhm.
people will be scouting more, right? They will get, they have to work, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to be lazy anymore. So I think Ella mentioned that earlier as well on the chat. I think it's a very healthy. Yeah, and like you said, you don't need alliance to do that. There are plenty of corporations out there, and they can start policing the systems. I think it's
Yeah.
overall it was a healthy change.
And then if you're in a good nullsec alliance, like Goons, there's many groups of people that will move shit around for you. We have
We're
micro
not a
shipping groups that will hop the stuff about for
we're not a good alliance, Dave.
you.
Let's not.
I,
I'm just kidding. Now, so what I take away from all this, though, what I take away from all of this, everybody, chat, like if you don't take anything away from today's show, I do want you to take away that you heard it here. You can just drop your hall dread on anybody in an Black. So I encourage everybody to just drop your dreads, your
yeah,
hall dreads, and warp them to the Ansiblex in UALX
I'm gonna
and find
I'm
out
gonna
why that's a bad
revise
idea.
that comment of please use your brains when you do it. I mean, common sense, folks. Then again,
No.
if
Have
you
fun. Drop your dreads are cheaper,
if you
everybody.
if you don't employ common sense, you're gonna lose your dread. Which hey ho, you may be fine with that, but you're gonna get laughed at. So
Yeah, for
yeah.
everybody. I was just gonna say one last thing for everybody who is not in the Imperium, who's watching our show today. I plan on like flying around in my dread more, so come find me, and please bring the pain.
Oh,
I want to
please
feel
drop
it.
my dread. Please drop on my dread. I haven't actually tank tested it
All
yet.
right,
No one
Dave.
shot it. Um, yeah. I think we're coming to the end now, unless anyone's going in the air. I believe we have
Yeah,
a
no,
few
if you want to take us out, Dave.
announcements. Yeah, so we have a few announcements for the end. First things first, the Meta Show will be returning to its Saturday position it always inhabited, roughly, except the time won't bounce about with daylight savings because depending on what part of the country, it will be at 2100 Eve time every Saturday from now on. I've managed to work my workout so I have Saturday evenings off, which, trust me, that's a headache with my job, but I managed it. So it will always now, barring any craziness, be at 2100 Eve time on a Saturday. The next one, we're waiting on confirmation of the guests, but next week's show, we will be covering the update in a lot of detail. And if we get the guests confirmed, you're going to want to watch. You're going to want to ask questions. We will have people here to answer those questions. And I will do a ping sometime midweek when the guests are confirmed to announce that. But it's very exciting stuff. Make sure you're there. 2100 Eve next Saturday, and the Saturday after, and the one after that, and the one after that. But yeah, that is. Anyone else got anything? Anyone?
No, I'm excited for next week's show, so it should be a good one there, and we'll definitely have some questions. We'll call it Revenant Review Part 2. Part 2, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. I believe that is all. Thank you for watching, everybody. We have a form that Remaker has put in chat. We actually have two. We have that one, which is seeing how you're liking the hosts, well, the co-hosts. It's a bit funky. We're trying some different things. Keith led the way today because, quite frankly, he's more charismatic than I am, and he's just like a jolly lumberjack over there. So let
My
us know
force.
how you think it's going. We also have our viewer poll. We want to know what you, the viewers, think about INM. We are looking at changing up our content that we are providing more content, providing different content. So let us know. And finally, as Keith said at the start, INN is recruiting streamers, stream producers, all sorts of jazz. If you are a streamer or you're starting to stream, get in contact with Mr. Ellie May. I'm not saying the first bit of his name because it's ridiculous. And we'll
Ellie
get
May.
you running on some stuff. So with that is all we've got time for today. We've been your hosts. Thank you for coming. I'm going to do an after show stream in a minute, so don't go anywhere because I'm going to raid me. And goodbye all.